Welcome back to Inside the OC. My name is Matt Cannizzaro, joined here by my sidekick on site at the Open Championships, Daniel Farish. Daniel, how are you doing today?
Doing well. What's up, everybody?
All right, so we're here for our third installment of this brand new podcast dedicated solely to the USBC Open Championships. We're joined today by three-time Eagle winner, Adam Barta, coming in from Girard, Ohio, Daniel in Kentucky. I'm here in Texas, just down the street from USBC headquarters in Arlington. Adam, welcome. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to hearing some stories from your days at the Open Championships. Some great ones, some great accomplishments, some close calls, all that good stuff. But before we dive into the OC, let's talk about what you're up to now. And, of course, everybody knows from our time at the Open Championships that you've been collecting eagles as well as children. But your real job for many, many years, you actually do work in collections. So this is a pretty important time for you. I know the world's a little crazy, but you've actually gotten some extra work and you're deemed essential. So you're out there every day in the workforce, away from your family for that. So just walk us through what it's been like these last couple of weeks and going to work every day, coming home, and then we'll get into some of the upsides of what's happening right now too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely a different change of pace for sure. I don't get to, when bowling season's here pretty much the whole year, with between leagues and bowling tournaments, I'm not home nearly as often. So this quarantine has been, great from the standpoint of being able to see my kids more and, enjoy them and, Marcy and everybody else. But, as far as work, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I've been at the same company now for, 22, 23 years. I work as a collections manager, so I deal a lot with mortgages, vehicles, unsecured loans, but what I deal a lot with foreclosures, repossessions, garnishments, bankruptcies, things like that. So we are considered essential because our business model's changed over the last, 8 to 10 years, where we buy a lot of mortgage loans now. So we're more into anything that has to deal with mortgages, which is foreclosures, modifications, things like that. But definitely considered essential. A lot of people have a misconception about what collections do and who we are and what anytime someone hears collection, they're like, oh my God, this is horrible and, you're just bad guy and things like that. But it's actually, for me, it's the complete opposite because for me, it's very gratifying and rewarding when you can actually help somebody out of a jam, kind of navigate through what they're able to do and what they're not able to do and kind of work around that. For the biggest thing is communication. A lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone and call your lender, call your bank, call your creditor, and make that phone call to say, listen, I'm in a jam. I need help. I don't know what to do. How can you help? It's not an easy call, but I can tell you from doing this for a very long time that the assumption is if you don't call that you're not going to want to work anything out, or just nobody really knows what's going on. But if you do make that call and you do ask questions and you do ask for help, just know that the worst anybody can tell you is no. And that's anything in life. I asked Marcy to marry me and I said, the worst she can tell me is no. Apparently she said, yeah. So no, but I've learned that. I mean, my dad taught me that as a kid, that, never be afraid to ask for anything that's, reasonable. And just know that the worst anybody can tell you is no. And it's the approach and how you present it, how you present yourself. But no, definitely considered essential. I've been a team leader now for 16 years, and it's kind of tough on me because I've got several people that work under me, and I've got their workload to do because we've gone to half staff. So it's stressful, but it's, again, very rewarding. So, I love what I do, and, I'm working more hours, but I know that normally when I come home from leagues, it's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And normally now it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'm still getting a few hours with the kids. So it's been working out.
It's a scary world out there, and you really never know what's happening, and you're coming home every night. So the upside is, as you said, you get to spend time with Marcy. And let me see if I got the list right. It's Logan, Blake, Brooks, and Lofton.
You got it.
There you go. There's everybody. So just talk about going out into the world and coming home, and again, scary things happening. But how do you feel coming in the door, and what's a typical night like now with the Barta household with this new schedule?
Well, rule number one per Marcy, and I completely am on board with it. Our office, we're really spread out, but during the day you just never know what you're going to pick up. So it's immediately get your shoes in the garage, take your clothes off. See, even Lofton said yeah, but go off and shower, and just don't take any chances. But then come down, and the great part is, I think every night that I've been home, we've had a dinner as a family at the table, which is what I'm sure a lot of families are doing now, and before with the schedule, it wasn't like that. So we definitely get to enjoy ourselves more, and spend quality time together, and have a lot of fires and things like that outside. But and Blake had a class the other day on a Zoom class, and he had said, and today too. Blake, come here real quick. Hurry up, come here.
All right.
I want you to tell everybody out there, this is Blake Weston here. Here's my 7-year-old. So when you had your Zoom class, not today, but the other day, and they asked you, well, what is the favorite thing, or what's the greatest thing that you have going on about this quarantine right now, where everybody has to stay at home? Tell everybody out there what you said.
That my dad is home every night now.
Yep. You like that? Yeah.
How much does that cost you, Adam?
I know. Blake, that was scripted perfectly. Thank you. You don't have to put it. You're not grounded.
That's called earning brownie points right there.
If there were any brownies around here, they're gone. That's for sure.
Well, Adam, that's actually a perfect segue because you are definitely a family guy, and we appreciate Marcy, of course, for holding it together. And any opportunity we get to see her at the Open Championships certainly is great as well. Tossed in your brothers as well, Pete and Dave, right? And really, we it was such a supportive group, and the future Eagle winners there in the background. But your team is kind of like a little bit of a family as well, and one that we've really got to see come together and develop over the last 7 or 8 years now. It's 2013 was when Team ABR really became a thing, and for us, the first time you and I met was a little bit strained. Maybe I was pretty scared of you guys, to be honest, because I already knew Mike Rose pretty well, but I knew you guys were a little bit mad at me, just based on the live stream schedule and as talented as you were, and we had an opportunity to have a chat that year, and that was the first time I'd met you, of course, and Mike introduced us, and we sat down. The National Bowling Stadium was closing down for the night. There was no late squad, I believe, so we had some time just to kick back and relax, and it gave me a chance to get some insight and see just really how talented and passionate and how much bowling and everything and the family and the team all means to you. And then we were fortunate to get you on the live stream schedule that year, and you guys put on a show, and you've been doing so ever since. But just talk about that first year that you guys came together, we came together and became friends, and really the birth of NABR.
Absolutely. It was kind of odd how we're all really close friends, and we have been for many years before we decided to join and form this team. But we all had actually Mike Rose and Scott Pohl had bowled together on a team prior. And then Brian Wolochek and Gottschall were with their own group, and then I was with Ernie Schlegel and Dave Husted's group out of Oregon and Washington. So, it was kind of crazy because the year before that, Hugh and I had, we had taken the doubles lead, and it was weird because after that, there were some talks shortly before the tournament was over about, hey, it was weird how the group chat started. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Mike Rose and Brian Wallachek were bowling in Baton Rouge on the same squad. And the conversation had just come up to say, not that they didn't like the teams that they were on, but they were like, okay, we're getting older. What could we do to possibly, make a deep run at this event? And let's think of some good guys that we're close with that are talented bowlers. But more importantly, the most important thing was being a team player, because there's a lot of great players out there that aren't. I wouldn't say that aren't team players, but when you ask them to sacrifice certain things or certain parts of their game, that becomes a much different conversation. So, so we were able to form that team. We bowled together for the first time in 2013. Like I said, great group of guys, great friendship, great chemistry. And the most important thing, in addition to that, was we could all communicate with each other, and nobody got offended by what anybody would say. Everybody knew what the goal was. The goal was to win an Eagle. That was all of our dreams. Mike had one prior, and Mike had described the feeling of just saying that, the feeling of winning an Eagle is, it's the number one thing in bowling. And he said that the one thing that I don't have that I want is a team event. And he said all the right things, and he facilitated most of getting together. And another important thing in winning is a companion team, because having the right companion team, it's the same concept that you've got to be a close group. You've got to all work together as 10 guys or 10 people, and you got to break the lanes down properly, because I'm of the belief, and I don't know this for a fact, but it's my belief that it's very difficult to win a team event if you don't have 10 people on the same page playing a game plan or whatever it is. But if you have 10 people on all doing their own thing, playing different parts of the lane, maybe once or twice a team has done that to win. But if you follow that standard, work together, be together, communicate, your chances of winning are much greater, for sure.
Well, individually, you guys all did great things prior to 2013. Some at the Open Championships. You mentioned Mike's all-events title and near back-to-back titles in 07 and 08. But you're right. You guys absolutely came together as a group, and that was evident from day one, really. 2013, Scott Pohl shot 300 in the team event. You guys made a run there. That set you up for a nice team all-events run. And then you guys came out and shined in doubles as well. And that was really when you came out as the team leader a little bit. That was the infamous Bowl TV nosebleed of 2013. Brian Wallachek nearly bled to death in between shots, in the settee, and you were there after each shot with a fresh tissue for him to keep him in the game and keep you guys going. And that's what a real teammate would do. And we're going to talk later about what the roles are within the team and what each guy is kind of expected to do and what you bring to the team. And that just shows your compassion and your being a father at that point. But all joking aside, 2 years later, the dreams came true in one of the most memorable finishes in Open Championships history. And I got to see it in person. Hopefully Daniel Farish got to catch it on the live stream. It was amazing. And what it came down to was just a phenomenal 10th frame for you guys. Worked as a team, communicated. Walk us through that. And it was certainly quiet in the convention center, and you had center stage, and it was amazing.
I actually went back and watched that live stream today, by the way, preparing for this.
Yeah, I mean, to know that you can step up in the 10th frame of the biggest event in the world and have a chance to take the lead. It wasn't to win, but you can't win if you don't lead with the lead. But I've got chills just thinking about it. In that, the thought process is, in my thought process, leading off was just, kind of like just like any other shot. I mean, you vision the shot, you try and do the best that you can. And I think that, I believe that I left a ring 10 pin and a strike because that's how much I remember this 10th frame. But then, if I'm not mistaken, Cole got up and left a, what is it, 2-7?
2-7.
2-7, and he got one. And then, the other guys, Rose had struck out, or Rose doubled, Wallachek doubled, and Gottschall had to double. So, and being in that situation, it's just like, let me just do my part and watch the show, because you couldn't ask for 4 better people to follow you. And it's amazing the adversity that Pole face and getting up there. I can only imagine what was going through his mind when he did that, I just let my team down. But rather than just, pouting and smacking stuff, it's like he's immediately right back there behind the other 3 guys. And yeah, I mean, unbelievable feeling. And people ask all the time, name some people that you would want if you had to get up in the 10th frame and in a must strike situation to win an event. And there's no doubt in my mind that 4 of the people I would pick would be my teammates. But yeah, Gottschall got up there, and I mean, like Daniel, you saw it today. I mean, the energy and it's, I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, just being part of that is just an unbelievable feeling. And, then, after that, it's like, you gotta hope it holds up. And it's the waiting game, And I think that's the worst part of it all. As Matt would know, Daniel, I haven't communicated with you enough, but and I'm sure, Matt, you'll get to it later in the show here, but the waiting game plays a very large toll mentally and on my heart, to say the least. But, yeah, you should show everybody your face right now. Here, look at this. Look at this. Look at this kid right here. And I think he soiled his diaper.
Oh.
So,
but before we get into the waiting game of it, I wanted to ask you about that 2015 lineup. When people look at those 5 names, the uneducated would say, oh, you can throw those 5 guys in any spot in the lineup and that would work. But those of us that have bowled at high levels before know that each player has a role in that lineup. How did you guys set that lineup? Was there a specific reason that maybe you were in the 2, so you were lead off, or you had Gottschall 5th? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, it was actually funny because, when you have 5 talented players, sometimes you have ego come into play. So, some people would take offense to say, hey, Brian, I know you would be a 5-man on any other team, but you're going to be 4. Or, Scott, I know you'd be a 5-man, but you're going to be in the 2 hole. There was never that. There was never any animosity. There was never any anger, never any negativity about where any of us were going to be in the slot. I was the leadoff because they considered me more of like the cheerleader, set the pace, more of a higher energy guy. And, there was another reason for it too, is because, my ball roll, honey, you want to get him? My ball roll, sorry.
You're fine.
Is very simple, but it's easy to read. So when you're getting into the strategy of breaking the lanes down properly or being able to see the lanes transition, I was kind of like the guinea pig, which I was okay with that. And as the pattern starts to develop, then the different bowling styles come into play. So now it's like, okay, well, now it's time for some people to move. Is it too early to move? Is it too late to move? Things like that. But I kind of always was the one with a higher rev rate, but my ball didn't really hook. So I was able to chew the lane up in the spot that we wanted to burn it out in. So, I was kind of setting that 1 hole for that reason. And then it just kind of followed after that. I mean, it was kind of like, anybody can be the 5, but, Mike made the decision and everybody was okay with it. So.
Getting back to the waiting game, you guys set the number in late April of that year. So you had just about 2.5 months to sit back and watch. Now, we talked to Matt McNeil in episode number 1, and he said that back in the day, players would get a subscription to the city's newspaper before the internet, before all that was around, and they would follow the scores in the newspaper each day and each week. We're a little more technological now. How do you guys go about watching those scores?
I hope my teammates listen to this because they're probably chuckling right now when I'm going to answer this. But Brian Wallachek is a closet watcher. He gets so mad at us when we text in the group text. He was like, "You guys are idiots. You guys, why are you watching that? Don't waste your time. You have no control." I guarantee you that guy's data was just as bad as mine watching scores, and I busted him a couple times. But, Paul was kind of like in the same way. Paul would watch here and there. But when the live stream in 15, we were able to watch, a lot of the teams bowl. So we would actually, my family would have watch parties over here in the back living room and watch every single live stream. I mean, it became an obsession. It became a part of our life. We almost felt like the Miami Dolphins, whatever the 70 whatever Dolphins when they went on, get together. But it's not that you're rooting against people, but you are. I mean, you obviously want to win. Marcy had the horns out on people, but it definitely is. It's unless you've been in that situation and having to wait in a position to win the biggest event you can win in the world for a team, it's indescribable. I mean, it's becomes like a mental illness. It becomes an obsession. I mean, it's just hard to describe. I mean, it's the way, like I told them guys, I said after that year, I said, Mike, I want to bowl on like July 5th or whatever the last day is because I can't take it anymore. Of course.
Well, if I was gonna rate Adam Barta in 2015 compared to 2017, which we'll get to, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the Barta score watching of 2015, I'd probably give you a 3. And you just explained a little bit about that. You had the live stream to watch some of the teams, but 2017 was off the charts. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 73, maybe even higher. And I look forward to hearing that story and maybe Marcy's version as well.
She didn't go to sleep either. Oh, Daniel, you'll like it. It's cool. You'll appreciate it.
But shifting gears, of course, the first one special as anything, I'm sure. And then moving on, 2016 was a great year as well. You guys bowled well at the National Bowling Stadium, and had some top finishes. But 2017 was where it kind of came together, and I got to see the transition for NABR. Got to have dinner with you guys and see that off the lanes, it was the same. The chemistry, the camaraderie, it was all there. Whether it was at a restaurant or blackjack table or just hanging out, just talking. And that transfers very well to what we saw on the lanes. And again, going back to the family aspect of things and how much that means to you to have your family involved and treat the guys like family. Going into 2017, we knew Mike Rose's sister was very ill. And unfortunately, the day before you guys had the team event, Mike got some terrible news. And then you guys had a lot to think about, a lot to talk about at that point. And you decided to bowl the team event. That was the number one thing, was to bowl the team event. And then Mike was going to leave right after. And then you figure out doubles and singles and how that was going to work. But what an emotional thing to have to go through. And, of course, already emotional for you guys in a different regard, but real life emotions. Talk about that conversation before 2017 team event.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'll never forget because we all met in the morning for breakfast and we would just hang out, go sit outside or whatever. Because we usually go 4 or 5 days before we actually bowl for the side events and then the team practice and just to settle in, get comfortable with each other, catch up on things. But I walked down into the coffee shop in the morning at South Point, and Mike didn't even need to say anything to me. He turned around, and you could just tell that the look on it. I mean, the look on his face is just said it all. He looked at me and just said, "Adam, she's gone," and you can do nothing but hug him. Unfortunately, with with people with that disease, I mean, my father passing away from it, you know the end is coming. You try and mentally prepare yourself for it, but you know, even when you know it's coming in the matter of minutes or hours, it's just never easy. So, you know, Mike knew it was coming. He just didn't know it was coming then. You know, he was hopeful that she could hang on until he got home. But, you know, one of the great things about that is before Mike came out, he was on the fence of saying, you know, my sister, you know, obviously isn't doing well. Hospice is there. You know, he's just unsure what to do. And she gave him, and it was almost something out of a Rocky movie when, you know, Rocky's wife wakes up, Adrian wakes up and says, you know, go win. And, you know, she gave him that encouragement to, you know, go bowl, go win for me. And, you know, that's all he needed to know, you know, that the only person that he had to worry about was her, and he got her blessing. And, yeah, I mean, just an unfortunate circumstance for sure. And, you know, how you could even mentally get to that point to bowl is beyond me. He did it, and yeah, we took the lead, and it held up. I mean, it's an amazing story, and definitely in her honor for sure.
You guys took the lead. You shot 32-66. You can't win unless you leave in the lead, of course. But what that ended up being was the lowest winning score since 1990, I believe was the number. So that what that meant to hold on to that title certainly was incredible. And then to sweat out that number over the next couple of months. And then it got even tougher for you guys because, as I said, Mike got on a plane that night, went home to be with his family. And he and Scotty Pohl were going to bowl doubles, so they postponed for almost a month. The rest of you guys, you, Brian Wallachek, and Anthony Pepe, you went out there and bowled the next day and bowled incredible again. You just kept striking. You flirted with 300, had 299, made a run at singles. All of that time, certainly with Mike Rose and his family on your minds, and you know, the great head start for Team All Events and what it would mean to win not only one but two. And you guys set the bar high, and certainly they came back knowing that it was within reach. You waited the 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it was, till they came back, and then they bowled, and they got there. They got what they needed to get, and you guys were on top of Team All Events as well. And then that's when Adam Barta started to go insane, as you said. Just talk about that. Obviously, those two titles meant so much more than just Eagles at that point for everything that you guys have been through. So no doubt that made you want it even more. There was no live streaming. So you had us and you had live scoring. And luckily you have a very supportive and cooperative wife as well.
Yeah. Well, no thanks to you, because you and Aaron toy with me all the time. So I will not thank you for that. But, you know, I think, and I tried to look at work and I found a reference, because I went through and counted every single snapshot that I took on my old phone. And Marcy, I didn't count, well, Marcy couldn't find her pieces of notebook paper. She kept ledgers and books of everybody's frame that bowled, like all the strong teams, and just dwindled it down to these people. She kept games 1, 2, 3. It's just crazy. So I went back and made so I had 3,266 snapshots of people's scores from the time we left until the end of the tournament. Yeah, Matt was not exaggerating when on a scale of 1 to 10, it would be a 72. And the best part about that is I live on the East Coast, so I'm 3 hours ahead of Las Vegas, Nevada. So when these squads, and I think Matt probably intentionally started some squads late just to mess with me, some squads that started at midnight or 3 o'clock my time, and it's, you know, there were probably 35 or 40 occasions where I legit slept for 30 minutes and then went to work, because I stayed up, and you had so many good teams that, you know, so many great bowlers go through there. And, you got to watch until the end. So, then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to watch tonight. Like a couple times I'd be like, I'm not going to watch. I'm just, whatever happens, happens. That way I can just be done with this. Right. So I would fall asleep at 11:15. I'm up at 12:05, checking my phone. Then I'm up the whole night. It is, it's Daniel. It's unbelievable that I can't even describe it. It's beyond a mental illness. But I can't say that I never want to have that feeling again, because that would be a total lie. I would love to have that feeling again, and probably, I don't know, have complications from lack of sleep this time because I'm getting older, but Matt is older than me. Yeah.
Well, shoot, 5 months.
Yeah. The question that I have about 2017 is, of course, there was that, almost like you guys said, a month between when you three bowled your singles and doubles and when Pole and Rose came back. Once, everything was kind of put to bed with Mike's sister, and they started to kind of not get past it, but get away from it. What kind of conversations, bowling related, were had between you three who'd already set the number, and Mike and Scott to go out, hey, okay, you guys got to go put a number up to match us so we can take this lead in team all events.
Right. So we were able to, now Mike and Scott would have bowled with us, and it's the same concept, but with less bowlers. I mean, you're working together, you're trying to break the lanes down, but we were able to bowl with, it was Pepe, myself, Brian, Bob, Bob Wiley, and then it was Chris Lamb and somebody else bowling on our pair. But anyway, Pole stayed and watched. Pole stayed behind, so he was able to watch, and he was extremely helpful with being able to, see things and, the transition, and kind of like walk us through certain things. But, there was kind of like a team meeting without Mike there to say, that not like you wouldn't typically try your best anyway, but, there was a little added incentive, little added, I wouldn't call it pressure, but you want to do something special for Mike and do this in honor of his sister. But it was just an amazing thing how well all three of us were able to bowl, because mentally we were like, well, let's set the bar as high as we can, possibly. So because Mike and Scott were coming back with the unknown of who they were going to bowl with. And there's a funny story behind that, because when they were finally able to set their date and they were able to bowl, we wanted to, we were communicating with them, and I got to tell you the story because it's so funny. So Scott Pole's in the paddock with, I said, well, who's on your pair? We're all wondering who's on your pair. Do you know him? And Scott and Mike are like, we have no idea who these people are, so they're looking up their averages to try and see, what kind of bowlers they are and things like that. And Scott went up to the guy and he's like, hey, so what do you think about this lane condition? And, we have this idea that if we all started, to the right at this part of the lane, we could break it down, we can work together, and this guy's like playing Scott the whole time for like 10 minutes. He looked at Scott and goes, by the way, we're doing our own thing. You're not on our team. Scott was like devastated because he's like, oh my God, these guys are going to screw us, But, it ended up being, I think the guy was just more so messing with him because Scott was so paranoid about, just because it's so crucial to play the lanes properly there that, if you have a few people that are doing their own thing or throw a lot of surface or plastic, urethane, whatever, your chances are not good. So, this guy totally played Scott the whole time. It was so funny because it ended up working out. I mean, they bowled well. Their carry wasn't great, but yeah, it was so funny because he's like, oh my God, I'm devastated. This guy can.
Can you describe watching that all unfold from far away? I know you had planned to come out there and watch in person, but just talk about what the three of you guys were doing from a distance on that day.
Definitely. Well, I mean, all year round, and there's not even like a lag of any time. I mean, we have our group team text, that we're always just talking about everything, just life and just, but so we just kept that same thread going, but we added Ruth Rose, with obviously Mike's wife, and who else did we add to that? Marcy, we added you to it, but so we were all communicating with each other, and we were trying to get like the play-by-play from Ruth and them that were actually there, and then of course you had like people like Harvey Johnson and other people there that were completely messing with me. So Matt probably told him to do that. But, they're like, oh, yeah, these guys are bowling good, but these guys over here are on pace for whatever. I'm like, whatever, But, it was crazy. But the communications and the frame by frame and, just it was crazy. I mean, it's hard to describe, but, the goal was to get as much as we could to put as least amount of pressure as possible on Mike and Scott because of the unknown of, not only just losing your sister, which is the most important thing, but the other thing is just not knowing who you're going to bowl with. Nobody intentionally goes there to screw lanes up, but again, playing the lanes properly with the right equipment goes a long way. And we just didn't know, who they were going to be paired with. So it was important for us to get as much as we could.
Well, certainly you yourself going plus 200 in singles and doubles, helped take some of the pressure off their shoulders. And Scott and Mike went out there, shot 644, 653, 619, and 644. So no, they didn't light the world on fire, but you guys took care of that for them. Yeah. So you're sitting at home, you're in the group text, you're watching scores, on the live scoring, from there at South Point. Once they finished up and you did the math and saw that you all had the lead, what was that like? Just that moment, not being at the stadium or not being at the arena, but being at home, getting that realization.
Well, actually, I was with the live stream because Matt was finally nice enough to put it on there. It was hard for me to even see the screen because I was just completely bawling my eyes out for pure happiness. Because I mean, we thought that the team event, we thought, well, if you ask Wallachek, he's like, well, we're going to be next week, but the team all events number, we were really comfortable with that number for as hard as the lanes were. We're like, that's a huge number. And we always felt confident about that. And just tears of joy and happiness, there was never a guarantee it was going to hold up, but again, we were confident about it. But I was so happy and relieved for Mike, just to go through all of that and to come there and, and not know who you're bowling with and to be able just to stay afloat. I mean, those, for as hard as the shot was, those are still good scores. But they never let that get to them. I mean, they grinded, they're grinders. They've been around a long time. They know how it works, and they set goals. We set a target number and they exceeded it. So, they did great. But yeah, I mean, the amount of crying that took place that night was amazing, to say the least.
Well, I know it's probably not right for us to play favorites at all, but again, since our conversation back in 2013, definitely have tons of respect for you and for your team, and look forward to seeing you guys every year. And of course, given the storylines, you couldn't help but kind of cheer a little bit for the success and for you guys getting there. And at that point, I probably should have bought some stock in Office Depot, maybe knowing that the amount of flip charts and utensils and things that were coming your way to keep track of everything over the next couple of months. You didn't sleep for 2 months. Again, knowing how much it all meant to you. And then when it was finally over, talk about just seeing the lights go dark on the lanes. So I know we messed with you that last squad for sure, 100%. We let you have it. But then it was over, and you guys had just won 2 more Eagles. And that would make 4 for Mike Rose, and immediately Hall of Fame conversations happening. 3 for you guys. Pepe gets his first wins at the OC. But most of all, you got it done for Shelly. Talk about the relief at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that first and foremost that was for Shelly. I mean, it was for Mike's sister. That was what it was for. And a funny story with Pepe was that, because that was his first year with us, and looking up at that board, and I'll never forget it. And Pepe, I hope you're watching this, buddy. We were standing next to each other as they were doing the announcements and walking out, and you see the Eagles next to each person's name, and his didn't have one. And he's like, he goes, something's missing there. I said, it's only going to be missing this year. Next year you're going to have one, buddy. And lo and behold, it ended up being 2. But yeah, I mean, just truly amazing. And when you win and then next year when you come back, knowing you're defending your title, but and I say this all the time, is especially you two and the entire USBC staff, you guys do such a wonderful job in creating the biggest stage in bowling to make you think, not only is it the biggest event, you make it feel like it's the biggest event that you could possibly win. And that feeling of, everybody's already walked out, and then you're behind the curtain and you're walking out as champions of the previous year of the biggest team event you can possibly win in the world. And you get to pick your, and just like the days leading up, what song do you want to walk out to? And, kind of like the red carpet treatment. I mean, just, the feeling is just unbelievable. It's so hard to describe, but you have a sense of, if you've never had it and then you have it, you have a sense of like hunger and urgency to be like, oh my God, I mean, that was an amazing feeling. I want to do that. I mean, not that everybody doesn't want to win every year, but I mean, just one more time. Let's win one more time. I mean, that feeling is so amazing. And yeah, I mean, to be able to walk out again and not only win 1 eagle, but 2, was truly amazing. And I'll never forget, we came out and, Pete was crying like crazy. He got the sponsors trophy, and, I'll never forget, he held it up like it was a Stanley Cup, like it was, the greatest thing ever. But, he also knew what it was for and who it was for. Yeah, just to come back and say the following year and to share the story of why and who we won that for was something that I was waiting for the entire year. And we knew one of us was going to talk. Mike wasn't able to talk about it, obviously, but it wasn't easy for me to do it, but to announce to everybody that it was in honor of his sister was truly something special and something we waited an entire year to come back and do. And just an amazing, it's amazing.
Well, Syracuse was drivable for you guys, so you had the family there with you. And I remember it's standing out, just having the whole family out there on the approach, taking photos. When the team event was over, of course, you had a job to do. At that point, it was time to turn around, lights come on, time to bowl. But afterwards, we had some fun, some of the nicest trophies I've ever seen. And then to have both of them, have the whole family there, the photos, and certainly meaningful for us as well. Part of the process. That's kind of the end of the process for us. It all starts when you take the lead, the photos, the interviews, the phone calls being an absolute highlight. And it tails off until you come back. And for some, you see the banner for the first time with your names on it. You see that eagle next to your name on the scoreboard. But to hold those trophies and take those photos and know that that's forever, that's pretty amazing. And the fact that we get to be a part of that, and Farish now will have that opportunity hopefully here in 2020 to share that experience with some of this year's champions. And, again, to see it all through. You see it from the beginning and to see it all through. And then for you guys, things changed a little bit in 2019 and 18 even. Rob Gottschall moving on, finding another group to compete with. Now he is working with us at USBC, and some rule changes meant that Anthony Pepe had to go and find another group, and he did pretty well last year. We'll see him coming back out with another presentation in 2020 as a defending Team All Events champion. So he helped his new group there at the South Point Bowling Plaza. Scotty Pohl was out with an injury in 2019, right? So what is in store for us in the future? What does Team ABR have coming up in 2020? And what are you guys doing to stay sharp and stay ready for the next event?
Well, I mean, like you said, because of the rule changes 2 years ago, with Pepe having to go out, we replaced Anthony Pepe with Vernon Peterson. Because of the, his group had to split up because of, the rule changes. So again, Vernon was a perfect fit, and we've known Vernon for many years, and team player. He just fit the mold. And, we reached out to a few people, not like an interview process, but just reached out to a few people to see, and Vernon was definitely the right fit for us, for sure. And then 2019 Pole was, because he lives in Minnesota, probably shoveling 84 foot of snow, had an injury from shoveling snow, and it just never got right. And, Scott being unselfish as he is, I mean, he could have tried to bowl, but he chose not to because he felt that it would be detrimental to the team to bowl. So we were able to replace him with Tim Pfeiffer, and Tim bowled lights out. I mean, Tim bowled phenomenal, and even all the side events and everything. And he was the right fit. He's also a very good player, but a good team player. We get along with him. We can joke with him. And those are the important things to us. It's that, it's not about having the best talent, but it's about having the best chemistry for us. So, this year we're back to, we fired Tim Pfeiffer, but I want to thank him for his generosity and splitting up his USBC check for us. Tim, I hope you're watching. I love you. Him and I play games with each other all the time, but Tim's a great guy, great bowler. But we're back to the old group. We are Pole, Rose, Wallachek, Vernon, and myself for 2020.
So in the 7 years that Team NABR has been together since you all began back in 2013, in those 7 years, 5 team all events, top 10 finishes, and those other 2 finishes were both top 15. From different corners of the country, how do you guys throughout the year coordinate this? And then at what point in the year do you start preparing to get ready for this? Because obviously you guys are doing something right with the massive amounts of success you've had in this just short time period.
And this is a communication between all 10 of us with the companion team as well. But, and again, it's all about communication, but we've got, and I won't speak for myself because I'm not that savvy with ball drillings and layouts and stuff like that. I mean, I know enough, and I know about surfaces and things like that, but, Mike works for Ace Mitchell. He has a lot of contacts and a lot of references, and he obviously, before he went to Ace Mitchell, ran a pro shop in Rochester. Scott Pole owns On Track, the bowling supply, and owns pro shops. Brian Wallachek also, and Vernon. I mean, Vernon, everybody knows Vernon. Vernon bowls all over the place, and he has contacts, and he does ball reviews for Bowler's Journal. So it's a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of communication, but it's kind of feeling out and talking to the people that have bowled and the people that you can trust, and trying to. The theory with us is the last several years is that the USBC did such a masterful job in making them difficult and making you work as a team and as a group. And if you didn't, it was very hard for you to win. So we knew, generally speaking, that, the patterns may change in length and a little bit of volume, but for the most part, they're not going to steer away from that because they want that, in our opinion, they wanted that number team winning event to be in the 3,300 range. They don't want 35, 3,600s to win because that's just not right. So we knew that, generally speaking, that the balls that would work, the last 4 or 5 years from what I remember, I mean, the same bowling balls have pretty much worked. In lane topography comes into play, and once we find out the pair that we're on, you have the ability to look up the lane topography to see, what the lane does and, what the characteristics are. So, we do a lot of research. There's a lot of behind the scenes kind of thing. You asked the perfect question, is that, it's not just 10 guys showing up, see you a couple days before and, let's try and win this thing. There's preparation all year round. It's it's, what balls do we think are going to work? What balls don't we think are going to work? Hey, I've talked to so-and-so, and it's somebody you can trust that, hey, this didn't work, or the theory of let's throw urethane down the middle, get some push in the middle part of the lane. How did that work out for certain teams? The lefty mafia, that with Scroggins, they had the idea of let's get 10 lefties, let's camp out on each other and see what happens. So everybody has a theory and everybody has a game plan. The ones that want to win and your top tier bowlers, they all have this theory and this game plan. And the first goal is sticking with it. And first goal is hoping it works. Second goal is sticking with it. But for us, it's again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's I'm not afraid for Mike Rose or any of the teammates to come up and say, Adam, you've got to stay right. You got to ball down. You got to stay there. I know you're not going to shoot 220. I know you're going to shoot 190, but that 190 is more valuable to us that you break that spot down properly for games 2 and 3. So that 190 turns out to be way more valuable later than me bowling 220 now. Like, you'll see some teams, and you've got enough exposure, but Matt, you've been around a lot longer, is that you'll see some teams, they'll start off with like 1150. And those are the teams, when we're watching, we're like, they're done. Because it might be their game 1, but you probably started too far left, and then there's nowhere to go. Your ball may look good through the first 45, 50 feet of the lane, but when it gets to the pocket, it's got no energy, or the angle's not right, and your carry's horrible. So we just kind of stick with the same game plan and, kind of the same equipment. And, we've been around with each other long enough to know, what our roles are at this point. And, like you said, 5 top 10 finishes or 15 finishes in team all events. So, yeah, that's right. Oh, look at this. Show everybody your face now. This is great. Look at that. But,
love the smile, by the way. The smile was perfectly timed.
This is how odd this child is. So he just ate chocolate ice cream, and he's eating salt and vinegar pork rinds.
And he poured those for himself. He would normally have that.
Yeah, that's the. We had a fire.
It's a recipe for success right there.
So we had a fire the other night in the driveway, and with the projection thing. So there's popcorn left over from the night before that's all smashed up with dirt in it. Well, guess who ate it? This guy right here.
And guess who is supervising? That guy on your screen.
Oh, you gotta let him eat it. It builds up in a good immune system. Anyway, but like
you said something perfect there. You said that we've been together long enough. We all know our roles, and you kind of segued me into my next question, which was perfect, by the way. Thank you. Each team, whether it's a Baker team or a team at the OC or a high school state championship team, each player has a role, whether it's one guy at your all's level coordinating travel efforts, or there's one guy that is going to get a mark 90 out of 90 frames. There's one guy who is going to throw a double. What's your role in this group? And then for you 5, how would you categorize your 4 teammates' roles within your team?
It's a great question. So obviously my role as leadoff is, more cheerleader, but again, my goal is because, it's kind of odd. I have a high rev rate, but my ball doesn't tilt. So I'm able to stay as far right as possible, or probably the longest, but still at the same time with my rev rate, kind of like burn the lane up a little bit and a little bit longer. So, you could call it sacrifice, you could call it breaking them down better, whatever you want to call it. That would be kind of my role in that, and then when it's time to move in and get after it, then it's a free for all, but you've got to develop that spot. And Scott being in second position, Scott's a straight player as well, very accurate. The rev rate isn't as high, but he's able to stay right. He could stay right with us. So, as you're going down in the order of the team that we've got now, or even let's go back to when Gotchel bowled, if you take it in the order of tilt, you've got, it was myself, Pole, Rose, Wallachek, and then Gotchel. Pepe after that, but then, it was the same order. We never changed that. And then when Pfeiffer came last year, we put Wallachek, but Pfeiffer has more tilt. But anyway, we put Wallachek there just because he's more experienced and, not that Pfeiffer couldn't bowl fifth, but I just didn't like him and I don't want him to bowl fifth. No, I'm just kidding. And Mike is also, Mike can hook it if he needs to, but Mike isn't a super high rev rate guy and, just not going to get himself in trouble. But, being able to have those guys with the biggest tilt bowl last was key for us, because as the lanes start to break down and they develop the way that we wanted them to, that for myself, a straight guy, or Scott, a straight guy, the more that they hook, we've got to open our angles up through the front, so that brings our carry down. The guys that can hook it more and have better tilt, they can kind of get in and go away with it to the spot that we've burned up, so their carry percentage is higher. So we know that come game 3, when strikes are needed, that we know that all 5 of us can throw a strike, but the carry percentage or the chances are better that they do, because their carry is better, their tilt's better, and more toward the end. So early on, the straight guys are going to, probably bowl better, because, you don't want to hook it early. And then later, when that spot's developed, your hook guys are obviously going to hopefully, strike better. So.
Now, we know all you guys are very talented on the lanes, on the approach, but it's more than that. It's keeping things calm and light off the lanes as well. You guys are a riot when you're not bowling, but things don't always go well. You're not always taking the lead. But what does each of you bring to the group in the settee or off the lanes, or what do you offer to keep things fun? Because that's part of it. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of probably a lot of ball busting going on. I'm sorry for the poor choice of words there, but it's the first thing that comes to mind is we always kid with each other. We're always, we don't take offense to anything that anybody says. Yes, we do, Lofton. But no, it's just keeping ourselves level-headed. We don't see any of us swearing, kicking things, throwing stuff around. We're everybody's cheerleader. We're everybody's sense of encouragement. But again, it's all about communication. Not one of us will take offense to anything that anybody says to each other and trying to help. So, and sometimes you need adversity and sometimes you need to lose, because you learn from those things, you learn from those mistakes, and it only, everybody has adversity in their life or anything that they do. It's a matter of what you do with that adversity, and you can always turn that into a positive. So, some humble pie for us, or whatever you want to call it, some adversity, we turn that into a positive. We know what not to do. There were some years that we didn't do, obviously we want to win every year, but, we're like, man, so looking back at this, what did we do wrong, as a team? How did we play these lanes incorrectly? Because, the one year, I forget what it was. I mean, we all had that game plan to stay right and break them down, and then we made them virtually impossible because we clipped them, where, like, there was that hook spot to the right, but it was like a 2 or 3 board area, with a 2 or 3 board area that if you didn't hit that the right way, it was bad. So we learned that, when we're breaking them down, we're not breaking down the same 2 or 3 boards. We want to break down a 5 or 6 board area, with different traces down the lane, so you're kind of developing the lane properly. So, yeah, if the team suggests that I change a ball, in my mind, I'm probably like, no, that's probably not what I want to do. And I'm probably the most stubborn when it comes to that. And last year I probably should have done it, but I was stubborn and I didn't. But it's all about being open and trying, what the team is suggesting and, things like that. So, Lofton. This kid's terrible twos is full effect over here.
It's a real thing.
But there he is.
He's being good.
But no, it's truly we have such great chemistry and great friendship that it's one of the keys to success. It truly is. It's, talent gets you so far, but chemistry and friendship and communication is just as important.
Whoa.
All right. Now we know that you're a team guy, you're a family guy. And I think you probably think more about other people than anybody I've ever met. And as a weekend warrior, bowling is your other job. But the amount of things you do for others and the charities and the Guinness Book of World Records, and you even have your own nation, the Barta Nation. Like you are a big deal, and rightfully earned. Of course, people support all of the great things you do. And before we wrap up, talk about that and what those endeavors mean. How you're able to use your celebrity status almost and to go out there and work hard for other people, and what those opportunities are like.
And well, thank you for that opportunity, because I truly do like to share, this story and this part of it, because, when I do speak at various venues or to kids and things like that, it's, just in general, God gives each and every one of us a gift. There's no doubt about it. And, early on as a kid, my parents engraved that into me, and they said, when you figure out what that gift is, try and make the world a better place. Try and do what you can to make the world a better place. And, for the longest time, I knew that I was good at bowling, and I always enjoyed helping people. But I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to do something more, not only because I've got 4 children that I can, help and become a role model to, but they can carry that torch too. So this may take a few minutes, but I want to share it anyway, is that my father was diagnosed in September of 2010 with cancer. They gave him 2 weeks to live, and I'll try and run through this as quick as I can, but he lost. It was just like devastation. Adam, what can I do? And I said, Dad, all we can do is hope. I mean, they gave you 2 weeks to live, and let's make the most of it. But long story short, with his illness, is that he lived 2.5 years. He beat the odds, and he passed away on December 24th in 2012, Christmas Eve, and he wanted nothing more but to hang on for Christmas. But the unfortunate part was that he didn't, and there was a reason for that, which I'll get to. Is that after that, early on, it's like, okay, well, Christmas is ruined this year, and it would be depressing. But Marcy and I talked about it. We're like, well, you know what? Let's, instead of being sad and which we are, but let's do something to my dad's honor. Let's share his story. He truly beat the odds, and the power of hope is truly an amazing thing. So we started a foundation. It was called Barta Nation Families Foundation, where we sought out families or individuals that were sick and that were in need of, this encouragement, but also in need of help financially or a gift, food, whatever it needed to be. And it started off with just a few people the following year, which it progressed into 2015, where the foundation was a place we were delivering to families. And then I was tagged on this post in Facebook about this George Falingos in Australia that had this Guinness record for the most pins in 1 hour. And I see Steve Pennington out of Columbus and I think he was the first one to tag me. He said, Adam, you got to do this. This is right up, you can do this, right? So I'm looking at this guy's video, really cool video, how, behind the scenes, and he's this Australian marathon runner, great shape. And I'm like, Steve, this dude runs marathons. There's no way that I'm going to be able to throw continuous shots for an hour and beat this guy, right? So it got progressively just, nobody would leave it alone. You got to do this. Hammer jumped on board. Lori Mraz jumped on board. Craig Elliott with Bullstream. We got this thing into place where we were only the TNBA, the Reed Hawthorne in Cleveland, and the TNBA offered, the bowling center, Wycliffe Lanes offered the center, and TNBA offered the free service for the live stream. And Craig's like, Adam, you can make this into a big thing. You can help your charity. Spread the word for your father. I'm like, let's do it, right? So as things progressed and we found out about this record, and I go to practice for the first time, and I got to tell you guys the story is, I'm like, all right, let's do this. It's continuous shots, 1 lane, 1 hour, clock never stops. Turn the lane on, I'm shot after shot after shot after shot. I'm huffing and puffing. I looked at Marcy and I said, how long have I gone? Like 40 minutes? She goes, 12 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. So in my mind, I'm mentally like, I'm not even gonna be able to last the hour, let alone beat this record. So there was a post that I had noticed in just typical Facebooking, and they said Adam should be more worried about his weight and lasting the hour than beating my record or beating the record. So I'm like, okay, that's all the motivation that I needed. So I would practice, 400 shots an hour, just trying to get the endurance. Not until the Tuesday before the record did I actually beat it. I beat it by 80 pins. So I'm like, all right, I can last the hour. I can beat the record. Let's do this. Go up to the Reed Hawthorne Bowl F-teen games in the tournament. Ended up finishing second. And then they're like, all right, let's go. It's, TV time. You ready to go? And I looked at Marcy and I'm like, I'm freaking tired. She's like, well, you better suck it up like now because you got a lot of people here, don't disappoint. So anyway, the record was 2,132 pins. I got 2,706. I beat it by 500 and some pins. I had no idea, just pure adrenaline, knowing what it was for, just so many things involved. But we were able to raise several $1,000s for these families that were, in need and just spreading. It just helped so many things and being able to spread my dad's story. So in 2017, as we were continuing to help, and this is where it gets to, a whole nother level, is that in 2017, I was bowling the Lucy Doubles in Texas. And I met, I was friends with this individual, Boyce Lejeune, on Facebook. And he reached out to me because he saw that I was in Houston. He said, hey, Adam, I see that you're in Houston. Would you mind coming by and meeting my daughter? And I had some free time, and I was like, absolutely, that no problem at all. He said, well, we're down at Texas Children's Hospital, on whatever floor. And I'm like, and I had a feeling that she was obviously sick, but he had warned me. He said, hey, when you come here, she's on a floor that with terminal kids that have, that have cancer and that are just terminal. And I had never seen that. I've been around my obviously adults that had passed away from cancer, but never children. And when I got up to that floor and the elevator opened up, there was this 4-year-old boy. He probably weighed maybe 30 pounds and just this mask on. And he says, he pulled his mask down. He said, hey, how are you, sir? With this big smile on his face. And it's like, you talk about like a punch in your face or your gut, that could be my child, and we went in and I never forget walking into Paige's room. Her entire room was Captain America, Superman, just all these superhero things. And, just looking at her, she was smiling and, she was happy as could be. And never one time in the couple hours that I was there did she ever talk about her illness or, dying or anything like that. And, but she was so intrigued by this Guinness record. And I said, you know what, Paige? I said, if I ever do another Guinness record, I'll do it in your honor, and not really realizing what I was getting myself into, but I felt that it was appropriate to say that if I did, I would do it in her honor. I wasn't planning on doing one, but so as I was getting ready to leave, Boyce, the dad, had, kind of walked out with me, and he said, hey, Adam, just so you know, she's, she is terminal. She does not have that much longer to live. She may not necessarily know that, but there's not much time. And this was in August of 17. And as soon as I got to the parking deck, and bawling my eyes out, and I told Marcy, I said, well, we've got to hurry up and do another Guinness record, like right away. So we sought out, which was the one that I knew that I thought that I could do, which was the most strikes in an hour. And, Hammer was on board, Turbo's on board, Craig was on board, Craig's all in. This one was just becoming much bigger and much greater because, the first record, people saw what it was about, and this time it was in my home center. So Logo Infusion was on board with making these shirts, and the theme was Promise to Paige. And we put Paige's picture on the shirt, and the theme was Promise to Paige. Amazing. So many donations for Chinese auction items and things like that. So the record for that was 176 strikes in an hour. And this one was much harder because you got 2 lanes to bowl on, but now it's not a matter, 9 isn't necessarily good. 9 is no good. You need strikes. So as I'm going through the record or going to the record with like 5 minutes left, I'm behind the pace. We had a certain pace that was set. And I ended up throwing like 17 or 18 strikes in a row to beat the record. And the sound of the crowd roaring and Boyce and Amy Lejeune and their son were up there for Jeremy. We're up there for the event. My mother-in-law and my mom flew them up here for the event, so they were able to come up because Paige passed away 2 weeks before the record was to be set. So she was able to see the jersey. She was just, very thankful. So they flew up here. They got to witness it, and they really weren't sure what to expect from it either. And neither was I. I mean, I know how many people were going to show up. It ended up being, a couple hundred people there for sure. But we raised over, Marcy, $10,000, $12,000. Half of which went to the Lejeune family, which they paid it forward for six kids, and the other part for my thing. But of the accomplishments in bowling, I will honestly say that it's not so much about the Guinness records; it's about the ability to have a gift to do something and to pay it back to others. Is what it's all about, and those to me are extremely special because of the people we can help. And we did another event after that. It was called Striking for Smiles with Dave Waslow out of Kansas City, where we just did a race for strikes. We didn't know what to expect. We did a local thing, and it was for a girl named Ella and a little boy named Jensen, who was 2 years old at the time, or 3 years old at the time, and he had cancer. So it was local families, and we ended up raising almost $10,000 on a day in August. For these 2 families. We got big checks and big banners and things like that. But like the Eagles are always very special to me. But the Guinness records for the purpose that they served are truly, I would say, my biggest accomplishment for sure. Just for what being able to help others.
Well, thank you so much for all you do in that regard and for sharing that story as well. I'm glad we had this opportunity to get to know you off the lanes a little bit, beyond the scoreboard and the leaderboard. And that's certainly a great way to almost end things. I do have one final question for you before I let Daniel wrap things up, but let's fast forward 18 years into the future. And Team Barta is about to hit the lanes at the Open Championships. Marcy's in the stands out there. She's ready to cheer you on. Pete's ready to get a hold of that trophy. What's the lineup for Team Barta 18 years from now?
It's going to be pretty interesting. Lofton, do you want to be the anchor on the bowling team? Lofton, you want to be the anchor? Anyway, that's going to be pretty interesting. I think that to be safe and fair so they don't kill each other, we're going to have to go from youngest to oldest. So we'll go Lofton, Brooks, Blake, Logan, and myself. And then, wouldn't that be something if we could win a Team Eagle as the Barta boys? That'd be something special.
We'll get started working on that story. We do have some free time now as we get ready for the 2020 Open Championships and heading back to Reno. Before we say goodbye for today, Daniel, any final thoughts from Kentucky?
Yeah, I've said that the bowling community, when you get rid of the few jackwagons that are out there, the bowling community is as close-knit and they care about each other as much, if not more, than any other community, whether it's a sporting, a gaming, a family community in the world. I've seen that firsthand in my own life. And if people didn't get the hint after the first big chunk of this podcast, certainly that last story, Adam, that you told, showed that you're one of those people who is the heart and soul of the bowling community. So thank you very much for everything you've done. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out there in Reno a little bit later this year.
I appreciate it. And I just need to say, I mean, you guys never get enough credit for what you do. Matt did not pay me, and Daniel, you did not pay me to say this. Brandy did not pay me, neither did Aaron. Becoming close with you guys, is something that's very special to me. I mean, we kid with each other and we communicate with each other, but I honestly have to say that for everybody that's listening, until you actually see it and see the sacrifices that these guys make behind the scenes, I mean, bowling is the biggest part of their life. I mean, they are so passionate and so dedicated to creating something for the bowlers that, if you see these guys, truly thank them. The entire USBC staff, they make it such a special event, but these guys work endless hours, trying to create something and to keep you informed and to keep the PR and the social media. I mean, I cannot thank you guys enough, honestly, for what you do. I mean, it is truly amazing. Sometimes it's a thankless job, and I know it's probably not the most financially, rewarding job that you could possibly ever have. But I can tell you one thing right now. I can tell that you guys do what you love, and when you do what you love, it's not considered work. It's considered a passion, and to me, that's more valuable than. I would rather make $5 an hour doing what I love versus making $20 an hour doing something that I hate. And I tell the people that at work, I said, if you hate coming in these doors, don't come in here. Go find something else that you enjoy. But I can honestly tell you guys that, I mean, I can't thank you enough. You do an unbelievable job. Your passion and dedication is second to none. And honestly, I mean, thank you from every bowler that bowls the championships. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for the kind words. Thanks for joining us today as well. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in person and have another conversation in 2020. Definitely enjoy this extra time with the family for sure. Wish it was under better circumstances, but send our regards to all of them and our appreciation as well. And folks, we appreciate you joining us for this latest edition of Inside the OC with Matt Cannizzaro and Daniel Farish. And I think that's going to do it for Adam Barta and for Daniel Farish. Folks, that's the news for now. See you on the lane.